Okay. Thank you. Huh? These are here. Next week. All right. Good morning. All right. Everybody's coming in.
I'm going to suck in just one more inch.
They're gonna have to start making wider. We got to have wider. What do you call these things here? We got to start losing some weight or expand these rooms. All right. If everyone's ready, we're going to call this meeting to order. We have brevity is important today. Good morning. We have a rules at 8:30. We have a session at 9. So we want to. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have hearings on 2 measures, and Representative Gilliard is going to present first on a bill that I believe is really interesting and about a very vulnerable population in this state. Representative Gilliard, you'll present House Bill 465. Let's get you, I'm sorry, sir. Let's get you, see if your podium's on now.
Good morning,
Yep.
Mr. Chair and all the distinguished members of this great committee. Today I bring you House Bill 465, LC 560292. Let me first thank you for the opportunity. This bill is very personal to me. It is the bill that talks about missing persons that have autistic mannerisms. I am one of 10 children. I'm the knee baby, number 9. Don't hold that against me, but my youngest brother is a very brilliant person that has Down syndrome and he suffers from autistic qualities. Just about a year ago, I was in session, and I reached out to a very good friend, Chairman Peachy, and I said, help. My brother was not only going through as an autistic person, but he was about to lose his leg. His leg was about the color of my folder. It was blacker than black. Reached out to Chairman Peachy and said, help. Sometimes in the midst of everything you're going through, you have to say help. And I want to give a report today, Chairman Petrie. Thank you for helping to usher the care. His leg is healed. He is doing great, and he is on the road to recovery. When you're suffering from autistic features, sometimes it's hard for people to recognize what you're going through. This bill is so important because I want to also give you 2 other individuals. It is the autism alert that we're trying to do. The average person, when they're missing and they're autistic, whether they're a child or whether they're an adult, is very profuse on the time that you have to look at to get them the help they need. This is a bill that will help those individuals and rescue them from possibly being a casualty. It also is a bill that helps law enforcement. Can you imagine what law enforcement goes through when they're trying to find those individuals and they don't know where they're at? There's no communication. Most of those individuals have had a tendency to wander to roads and waterways. Let me give you an example. In 2024, there was a 16-year-old named Connor Mathis who had autism, and he went missing from a church camp on Jekyll Island in Georgia. Despite a massive search by law enforcement and volunteers, unfortunately, Connor's body was found the next day. The search was complicated by Connor's autism, which may have made it harder for authorities and volunteers to understand his behavior and how to approach them. But let me go a little further. In 2024, right here in DeKalb County, there was a young boy named Kyrus Williams with autism, and he went missing from his home around 6:30 p.m., and I emphasize the time. And despite the efforts by law enforcement and volunteers, his body was found around 2:30 a.m. in a pond just a feet away from his home. The search was delayed due to the lack of specialized response plan for children with autism who may wander and struggle to respond from those who are trying to search for them. This bill is Georgia's bill. It's a bill that focuses on helping those families that have those persons that suffer from autism. It's focused and patterned after Maddie's Law. Those that were disabled, Maddie's Law gives the GBI the opportunity to have the jurisdiction from the director, putting things in place, those alerts. If you notice that even a lot of our convenience stores are some of the best places that they can, when you see in this, it talks about the Georgia lottery. We're not going to play numbers today, but it's there because those stores, those convenience stores, they can communicate with them through those convenience stores. They can get the message out. Have you seen so-and-so? It's important that the time frame is the biggest thing, and we need to look at everything we can do. I trust the jurisdiction of the GBI, who has always done a great work, and that's what this bill speaks to. This alert is very important for Georgia and for Georgia's autism community.
Representative Gilliard, what strong stories, and I appreciate you pointing out. I want to mention a few things. You pointed out everyone that reads the bill, it immediately jumps out at you when you read 97 to 99, and you think, wait, the Georgia Lottery Corporation, why is that in this measure? And of course, so everyone here will know, this is almost to the letter Maddie's Law. That, of course, is for targeting a different population. Representative LaHood knows down there, seniors and those with dementias and Alzheimer's. But the Lottery Corporation is in here because they have this network, and we have the GBI back there, Mr. Bigham, who can help us maybe speak to this in a minute. But that network gets that message out to convenience stores all over the state, which are a lot of times, as Representative Gilliard said, where people will wind up if they are missing. But I want to mention, having served people with Alzheimer's for many, many years, something that you said that I thought was very powerful. I don't know why this is, but they oftentimes migrate to water. It is a common theme for people with autism to migrate to water. I want to mention a couple of other things that a lot of folks may not know if they haven't served people with Alzheimer's, and that is because of their lack of social skills, they are far more likely to be exploited and abused, and many of them are, and trafficked because they don't have the social skills to know how to keep from being led astray. And so they are definitely at a higher risk of trafficking. I know that's an issue. I mentioned that because it's been an issue for us over many years here in this here at the Capitol. So this is creating, Representative, a central database, basically, for parents and of adults or family members of adults and children with autism that would allow GBI to have a system like Maddie's Call where they alert. Everyone can be alerted when there's someone that is missing. All right, we have a good number of questions here, and Mr. Bigham, we're going to hear from you in a moment. If you can just be on deck. Number 4, who's number 4? Is that Representative Scott? Representative Scott.
Good morning, Leader.
Morning.
And thank you for bringing this bill. I do know that people that have autism, they do underweight, just like the people that have Alzheimer's and dementia. And I think this is a great bill. And I know it's only for a hearing today, but I'm looking forward to a vote on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Scott.
Good morning. I want to say thank you for bringing this bill forward, Leader. Both my grandmothers, one passed from suffering from Alzheimer's, and I'm currently, my living grandmother also suffers from Alzheimer's, and I know what it feels like as a individual to have those individuals in your family that quite can't do for themselves, especially for those individuals that have helped raise you and poured into you, such as both of my grandmothers have for me. So I look forward to the day that this is a bill that we vote on, not only in this committee, but on the floor. Thank you for bringing this forward, and I look forward to helping you get this passed.
Thank you, Representative Bell.
Representative McDonald.
To my friend, couple things. Of course, you answered my lottery question. That was something I marked when I was reading through this. You mentioned in here the Bureau shall develop. Ahead of that, I don't see any reference to whether it's the GBI or anything. I didn't know when it talks about the Bureau, what Bureau you're talking about on line 33. I think it's the first time I see that word mentioned, but I look ahead, it doesn't say anything ahead about.
It is a Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
Okay, I just think that might be a cleanup that you might want to look at to mention them before you talk about the Bureau, because after that you talk about the director. Well, who is the director? Director of
The GBI.
and so that's just something that I would look at. Because you look at where the funding's going to come from. If there was somebody you were trying to create another agency head, and that's where I was a little vague. And as Chairman Petrie said, when people are abducted or people are taken, our convenience stores are a place that you can get in, get out. If somebody might have to go to the ladies' or men's room, they're either on the side or in the building, and whoever may have these people, they want to be seen. They won't take them in big restaurants or anything. So that is good that you are using the lottery for this type of vehicle to get the word out of a missing person. But those are the only couple things that I saw in here that might need a little cleanup.
Thank you for my good friend, Representative McDonald.
And Representative, very good questions. Those were some that I had as well. What I learned is this, as I looked at it, Chapter 3 of Article 7, that entire chapter is related to GBI. So this is, so the director is the director of GBI. But great questions and good point about maybe clarifying. Number 8 is Representative Bonner.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for bringing the bill. Just a couple of quick questions. I'm assuming that obviously the purpose of this is not only to put out the alert that someone is missing, but also to give some kind of context as to what law enforcement may be dealing with when that person is found. Is that?
That is correct.
Okay.
Our law enforcement, people don't know the level of what they go through just to be able to help us. And so it helps, the time frame, and it helps them to be able to be successful in finding them.
And do you happen to know, and this may be a question for the GBI, is there any specific training that our law enforcement receives in this regard and as to how to deal with someone who may be on the spectrum when they encounter them?
I'm going to yield to the professionals on this.
Representative, I'm going to let him stand beside you. Rocky, could you come on up? This is Rocky Bigham, Special Agent in charge, and he is here to speak to this issue with Representative Gilliard. Thank you.
And if you could, just as a part of what your response, I know obviously one is too many, but is there any idea of how many this may impact as far as that go missing each year?
So are you talking about just for autism alone?
Correct.
So I can speak to currently, the closest bill for this is the Maddie's Law, which we activate for local law enforcement currently. For fiscal year 25 so far, since July 1st, we've done over 175 alerts. So with those, we do activate for autism currently for the Maddie's Call. It is under the missing or the missing endangered persons category. You have the disabled adult and then missing endangered persons. So those can be juveniles as well. We have quite a few that are under the age of 18 that have been activated for this year. Sometimes it's bipolar, autism, schizophrenia. There's multiple mental conditions that fall under that category. I couldn't tell you exactly how many we've had so far with autism.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question, Mr. Bigham, to that end. So individuals that may have family members with autism now can piggyback, I'll use that term, on Maddie's Call, put that information in the database. They're doing that to some degree today.
We are.
We are, and you mentioned you can't break out the 175, I'm surprised at that number. But you don't know how that breaks out to what those individuals look like, if you will, in terms of their diagnosis. But that's how many calls you've had.
Correct, and we don't maintain a database just because within that we would have to categorize individuals' names and their mental condition, so we don't keep that information. What we do keep, though, is the activation along with the names and then the ages and then the activating agency. So whatever agency is asking for that to be activated on behalf of.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. So, so I'm going to ask you a question. We have so many questions, and we have a short meeting. But I need to ask you this. So this measure, which is specific to autism, so do you believe we can gain something by focusing separately and apart with a program for those with autism, and to disseminate that information through all the intellectual disabilities communities, advocacy groups, DBHDD? Could we benefit from this separately? And the second question is, from Nellie Miles, who communicated with me by email, she felt like maybe we could accomplish everything in here. She communicated with me and the representative about maybe making it shorter by just inserting it into, which would still accomplish the same thing as I understand it, but you tell me if I'm wrong, if you could speak to that.
I think it goes to marketing. So a lot of the stuff that we have to do is get out there and push this information out to our local law enforcement agencies so that they know that this is a capability. A lot of people, when they hear Maddie's call or Maddie's alert, they think of disabled adult with dementia or some type of mental capacity, and they don't realize that it also falls under the missing endangered persons as well, which we could do with juveniles. I do think that you could accomplish this by adding in that verbiage into the Maddie's call, and then us doing a better marketing job on what are those type of qualifications that would meet for this alert.
Representative Donahue.
Thank you, Chairman. You and Chairman Bonner covered half of what the question I was going to ask, but also you'd have to total like Alzheimer's, dementia, these things we're looking for people all the time would fall under here. Do you know the numbers if you put them all together? Because once we open this, and I think it's a good idea, you're going to have a whole lot more down here. Once you open a can, the worms come out. And when I say that, I mean that positive for my good friend, but we have a lot of, I guess, different things that fall under this umbrella. Could you tell me numbers more of one of the other?
I do not know what the numbers will be. I will say, though, that what I do like about the way it is written currently and the way the Maddie's call is written is it does still keep a lot of those investigative duties on the jurisdiction that has the authority over that missing person. So they still have to take those initial steps to try to locate the person. There has been times where an alert has been pushed out and the individual was inside the residence hiding. So that does happen on occasion, but some of those steps that are taken beforehand kind of helps alleviate pushing this out too many times.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, let's. We have several more questions, and we have limited time. Senator James is here. I want to allow her the opportunity to speak. If you guys can just hang tight there, let's let Senator James have a say here, have a word before we go to the balance of our questions.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a similar bill in the House, in the Senate. In fact, it's probably identical to the one that we're discussing now. I was on the governor's Mental Health Commission for about 4 years, and I was on the subcommittee for, I guess, all disabled children. And those with autism, dyslexia, or other disabilities. One thing that I noticed in the schools, and also my mom, who ended up being a principal with Atlanta Public Schools, but for her first 10 years there, she taught special education. And the autistic kids would disappear or walk out because then they didn't have classroom size. You just had all of them thrown in there together. So she was always making sure that she had someone, aide or someone, to make sure they looked after the ones who disappear. Well, the main reason I put it in is because my second grandson, who is now 13 years old, has autism. He was nonverbal until he was 7 years old. And all of a sudden, when my family started realizing something is wrong with him, because most people in denial. And once they realized it, they got him training, and he goes to Douglas County schools, and they do watch them very well there and teach them. Now he's an A+ student. He still has autism very bad, and he's very tall. At 13, he's over 6 feet tall. And sometime out of the blue, he'll just start, moving around and acting. So people, I wanted to bring in this because I heard what they were saying, but people don't understand them often. And if they are, say, about to get on a school bus and they might start running, I don't want the police to lock up. They lock them up a lot of times. And it's there until somebody comes and explains what's wrong with them. They may not have committed any crime. They just think that this person has something wrong with them. And then in my district last year, and my mouth is so dry, I don't know what's going on, but in my district, we had an apartment complex, and this guy was autistic, but the armed forces allowed him to serve in the Army. So he had just gotten home, and somehow he took all his clothes off and started running around in the parking lot. They didn't know what was going on. They killed him. They shot him and killed him. And this was just 1 year ago in Douglas County. So we want to make sure that we protect them and have a call line, and this is why I'm pushing it so hard. And I'm happy to be here, and I'll answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator James. And so we'll just, with everybody there, we'll just continue with the last of our questions. Representative Bazemore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to everybody. Thank you to my colleague and my friend for bringing this bill, and thank you to the agent for the information. I believe what everyone has said here is crucial and important, especially because this educates us. Not only us, but it educates law enforcement. And so, as it was said by the chair, if we have a program or something to educate law enforcement, because we see it all the time, they are not aware of the different activities of people that have issues. And once they are educated, then they can deal with that person in a totally different manner, and it does not have to be fatal. So I so appreciate you bringing this, and also when the chair was talking about this helps those individuals that are vulnerable to human trafficking. And those of us that have been fighting human trafficking, this bill will help us in that fight also. Yes. So thank you very much, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Bazemore.
Cannon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree, and I'm really excited about this possible opportunity for our state. I've been a big supporter as a preschool educator of our Babies Can't Wait program through DPH, which really helps to help families work out of that possible denial phase before the age of 3, when they're starting to maybe see some of these symptoms, or to possibly get some resources. And so I think this bill just does the right thing and moving in the right direction. I just wanted to, highlight the importance of the training of the officers, and the senator spoke to it exactly. Just definitely concerned about what happens, and I know that we've had some movement on mental health ride-alongs and mental health providers being a part of that, and so I'm assuming that that would be something that could also be a part of this bill. And the only question is, as you thought about a name for this bill, is there a person or a family? I think many of us here in the legislature might have families in mind, and so just wondering about that piece. Thank you.
Let me say thank you so much. It's a work in progress. There are so many families that you could attribute this bill to, and so as we continue to move it forward, I guess the tribute is to all the families that we have. There's so many of them, but thank you so much for the work that you do, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for bringing this bill, and I'm glad to hear that your brother is doing well. One thing that I really like about this bill is that you've really emphasized maximizing existing systems in terms of the communications. And I wanted to clarify that what you said earlier, maybe that this is not a central database. What this is communications and also education. And we had just been talking about the National Institutes of Health have identified there are currently 174,000 diagnosed cases of autism in Georgia currently, so a large population group. So the education piece of this, especially as you both described the nonverbal characteristics, often the training, I think, will also be one of the most valuable parts of this bill. To help us have better outcomes and impacts. And so specific training for law enforcement, but also extending into school resource officers might be another consideration as we think about the education. So thank you for bringing this bill. It has a lot of really valuable components, I think, to help our families.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, I know you're on time frame, so I don't want to hold you up any longer.
Yeah, we're going to have one last question, Representative, and then we'll decide from there. Representative Jackson has a question.
First, let me apologize for, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for being late. We had higher education this morning as well. I am so happy to see this, because coming out of the school system and coming out as also being a social worker, people have not addressed these issues because they try to hide them. I am just happy to see this and to be a part of making a decision as where this is going from here. So, Carl, I just want to thank you and others that have been involved with you in bringing this to this committee.
Thank you so much, Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Representative Jackson. Okay, so here's the posture we're in. Here's what we're going to do. We have a very short day. We just lost a member for rules. So here's what we're going to do. Representative, this has been very helpful. I think it's been received very positively. Is that the feeling? But it appears so let's do this. Let's work with GBI on some of the language issue to see if there's a simpler way to do it. But let's get it done, and let's meet early next week and vote on it. So let's just get the language tweaked on some of the things we alluded to earlier with whether or not we can simplify this. So does it go into Maddie's call, or do we have, this basically creates a whole new section like Maddie's call, but separate and apart. And so that, I think, is the question. So let's make sure we get it perfect, and then we'll proceed from there. But thank you for being here, my
Chairman,
good friend.
and thank you, members of the committee. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative. Okay. So that is, we will have, if there's a substitute, you will have it very quickly. Representative Schofield, we're going to hear, oh, there you go. Hearing only on a bill you have, which is 11.
HB 11.
House Bill 11.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committees. I bring before you HB 11, LC number 520581. And this bill seeks to enhance the quality of care in the state's long-term care facilities, ensuring adequate staffing for food and nutrition services. With over 357 long-term care facilities serving more than 40,000 residents. These are new glasses. We're going to do it that way. The bill requires each facility to employ a licensed dietitian and appoint a qualified director of food and nutrition services to oversee meal planning, nutritional assessments, and dietary compliance. And these areas are very important, as we know. Currently, Georgia has over 2,500 licensed dietitians, a workforce that will be pivotally influential in meeting these bill's new requirements. So this bill really does address the growing need for improved nutritional oversight in long care term facilities, recognizing that proper nutrition is critical to residential health and reduces hospital readmissions and hospital and healthcare costs linked to, and this is a really problem in this state, senior malnutrition. While HB 11 ensures a higher standard of care, it also raises concerns about potential staffing shortages and increased operational costs, especially for smaller facilities. So the long-term benefits really do save the state money in health care, creates a job creation within a nutrition sector that's often overlooked. And this bill is really a forward-thinking bill in the investment in Georgia's healthcare infrastructure. Now I'm going to just ask for a couple of extra experts from this field to speak on the bill briefly and give you a real quick overview as to why this bill is vital to Georgia. I'll bring up Ms. Regina St. Clair, and she's with the Georgia Association of Nutritional Food Service Professionals. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you, Representative. And we're going to ask, in light of the fact that we're going into session in 30 minutes, just brevity is
Yes.
appreciated.
You know, Kim stands for keep it moving, so. Keep it moving friendly.
Good morning, and thank you, Chair and Committee. All right, I am excited to be here, but first let me get a little breath. I am a CDM, but I'm also have a bachelor's degree in social sciences. I'm sorry. So it's really important to us as CDMs that we make sure that we take care of our patients in long-term care. The majority of us do work in healthcare services, either rehab, assisted living, and some of us work in military schools and all of that. But in the state of Georgia, we're not recognized, unfortunately. And our CMS rule tells us that as a CDM, we should be recognized for what we do. That includes making sure we do operational things for our buildings, take care of sanitation and safety of our buildings, and meet with our patients and residents. There are other people that are qualified to do that, but for us, we have to take a long program, 120 hours, plus we need a proctor in order to get our licensure to become a dietary director, dietary manager, operations manager. I currently work for Piedmont Healthcare. I've been there for 28 years as a CDM. So I have worked on both sides of the spectrum as far as with dietitians, operations management, and also I've worked in long-term care too. So I have a pretty good background of what's needed, but in order for us to keep continuing to work at the pace that we do, we need to ensure that we can hire more people to do this, to make sure we're taking care of all of everybody's patients, family members. Nutrition is very important. Nutrition is healing. You need it in order to live. So with that being said, I know there's a lot of patients and residents that are malnutrition. They don't have what they need. They don't get 3 meals. And when they come into a nursing home facility, they look for that, the 3 meals. When they don't get it, and you hire someone else that's not qualified to either do assessments on them or make sure that they're getting followed up on with weights and everything of that nature, then we're losing the battle. And on the other side, as far as business is concerned, when it comes to operational parts, when you have a CDM in your building, it takes away the F tags. You don't want a lot of F tags. So let's say if someone is not being fed, they might have a bed sore, or that they're not even getting adequate hydration, or if they're suffering from dysphagia or anything where they might get food enlarged or choked, all that comes under being a CDM. So that's what I have. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Okay, Representative, let's answer a few questions. All right, let's see. Number 9, that is Donahue. Representative Donahue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me ask a question here. Back during COVID, when we started the nonsense with all the people that were sick, but nonsense of people going to the hospital continuously, a lot of people come to me and said, my parents are there and they're not being fed. Nobody's taking care of them. My dad was one of these. Okay. So after you couldn't go to see these people 10 to 12 days, you found out a lot of them had not had a meal in 10 or 12 days. And I'm asking because I'm trying to kind of fly over and make sure I'm coming in on the right path here. Would this have somebody that would be keeping up with certain people or the whole hospital at that time? Because most of the hospital was people with COVID. And my father hadn't been fed in 12 days. And with that, when you look at it, the nurses would say the food comes in, sat at the end of the table, and then it went in the trash. So it wasn't just him, it was quite a few that we dealt with. What I want to, I guess, to ask is, how would this improve that situation?
Well, with that being said, it goes both ways, and it depends on if you're in the hospital or long-term care. And I'm going to give you an example of what we do at Piedmont. So, for instance, when we were down with COVID, we had our whole team made sure that we took care of our patients. That includes dietitians and nursing. Now, if your nursing staff is not willing to work with us, then you have another issue. And unfortunately, we lost employees during that time as well. So myself, dietitians, even someone that's only a cook may have to help distribute meals. And that's unfortunate, and we have been through that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Representative LaHood.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for bringing this subject up. I guess my question to start is maybe what problem are we trying to fix exactly? Because what I'm seeing, and I appreciate Rep. Donahue's question, but I believe this wouldn't impact hospitals. This would be long-term care, including nursing homes, assisted living communities, and those type of settings. I'm looking in the rules and regulations specifically right now for assisted living communities. Section 111-8-63, and there's a pretty extensive list of requirements now for nutrition and food preparation. One, Representative Donahue, is you must serve 3 nutritious meals a day, and none of the meals could be more than 14 hours apart. So, and that's usually the longest gap is usually the nighttime or evening meal, and then breakfast. And then there's requirements for the nutrition, the wholesome food. There's a section for that, proper food handling, duties of the food service manager, emergency food supply, and on and on. Menu requirements, food safety. These establishments are carry a food service permit, usually from the local health department. And in the case of someone not being served a meal, there's already a rule for that. It just may not have been enforced in that situation. So creating new rules that aren't going to be enforced, I don't see where that helps anything. We already have rules in place, and I appreciate what you're trying to do. You want to hold a standard, and that's good. We need that. Another point I want to point out is a lot of times in these settings, the food service vendor, the food arrives on a delivery truck and from a vendor. It's a lot of times nationally recognized vendor like a U.S. Foods or Gordon Foods or one of those. And they normally offer some type of food menu planning feature where there's a dietitian that has approved the menus, and that's how the food is ordered off of that guide. So just a few thoughts, and
Well-
just to try to set the tone of the conversation and see if we can understand exactly where the problem is that we want to fix.
I see what you're getting at, and I think the most important part for me is to recognize the clinical side of this. The operation side is easy. You can hire anybody, can go to school and get a ServSafe certificate, or they can go to a little program for 90 days and get a certificate saying they're a manager. But being a CDM is more entailed. It's actually like going to school, almost like receiving a degree, because you need to know the nutritional side, not just, hey, I'm going to serve you, this is for you. God forbid if it's just one CDM or one dietitian, you got to be able to make sure you can handle their nutritional care. And that means being able to know the difference between the ITSE diet versus a regular diet, puree diet, renal diet, diabetic diet. All those items are included in that.
And that's what this bill.
So does your bill require that a CDM be employed at the location? Is that what your bill's doing?
No, it doesn't have to be played there.
No, not by location.
What is your bill doing?
So it's creating, and you can speak on this because we.
It's creating, I guess, an opportunity for the CDM to be recognized versus a dietary manager, which in CMS, it does say, I think it's 483. It says that we will take number one as being a CDM and or certified manager, and CDM being the one that has the higher credential.
Okay, let me intervene if I might, in the interest of time, because we do have session at 9. Here's what I'm going to say, listening to what I just heard. So I have some questions as well. So Representative Donahue mentioned an issue that was basically a failure of we had a lot of failures during the pandemic, but that really didn't relate to people not being fed in a long-term care facility is a violation of the rules up one side and down the other. Mm-hmm. That is a simple violation of the rules. We had a lot of failures during the pandemic because people weren't coming to work and surveyors weren't going into these facilities, nor were long-term care ombudsmen. So that really is an aside. What you're speaking to, just to make sure I understand, Representative, because I want to make sure you get heard. That's why we're here today. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to try to frame it so with the limit of time. What you want is a higher standard of people planning meals.
Yes.
So my understanding, having been in long-term care a long time, my understanding, having been out of it for some time now, but I know Chairman LaHood may be more familiar with this. So you certainly in nursing homes, which are, by the way, there's not a more highly regulated institution in the state than nursing homes. So our nursing homes already have to have dietitian prepared meals. They also have physicians sign off on all their orders. So clearly a physician is, there's no one more that we more respect to sign off on. If somebody needs a renal diet, as you very accurately point out, that's going to come from the physician, right? Mm-hmm. And so then that menu plan is going to have to be a renal diet here, a low salt here, whatever they choose. Yes. In my understanding, and Representative Chairman LaHood, you may be able to speak to this, but whether it's an assisted living facility, a personal care home, or a nursing home, that is already a requirement. Or am I wrong? I mean, it doesn't, but it doesn't require somebody full-time. I think what you're trying to do is kind of require, Representative, that there's somebody employed on site to do that. Or am I wrong?
Most nursing homes do have CDMs in Georgia, most. But here lately, when the rule was changed, maybe right before COVID, they decided that a CFM, which is a certified manager, can step in this role, which was, to me, was a bad idea because it's taken away from the clinical side of caring for residents. So with that being said, a lot of nursing homes, long-term care, decided to go that route. So now, by them going that route, they end up with all these F tags because you're not making sure that the patients are getting everything they need on the nutritional clinical side. And yes, dietitians are in these places, and they may or may not be a consultant dietitian where they might come in once a week, twice a week.
Right.
So you're relying on someone that has some knowledge of nutritional care, be it clinical or not. But CDM has both, clinical and the operations part of it.
I think what we need is, and DCH is almost always here. They aren't here this morning. And what we will need to discover is how much of that is required currently in their rules and regs for all these different entities, because you're casting a pretty broad net here over all the different long-term care type facilities. I don't know that that it would include CLAs, but it certainly got assisted living, personal care,
Right.
and skilled nursing facilities. So I don't know how this would differ. I think it would differ in that it's going to require a stronger presence, but remember, that means it's going to cost more for the industry. And the question is, how does that impact, individuals that need care being able to afford care? So we have to contemplate all those things. Just want to make sure you understand that. But this has been very helpful. We have more questions, but
I'll look at that and then I'll.
Let's
get
answer
with you
2
and I'll
more
answer
questions.
Individually, any questions, because I know we have to all get there.
Okay, I'm going to let Chairman LaHood speak first because I asked him a question. Chairman.
Yes,
I
thank
ask
you,
you a question?
Chairman Petrie. And I just wanted to say before I lost the chance that I do appreciate what I believe your intent is, and that's having a high standard, because as you pointed out, a lot of people do enter these settings because of a nutritional deficit caused from their inability to have proper nutrition at home. And so I do understand that fully. But as has been clarified or pointed out today, there's pretty stringent rules in place today, and I would like to hear from the department, like Chairman Petrie mentioned, on what the standard is in the rules, and maybe we just need to discover a little bit more about the enforcement of those rules. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll take 2 more. Chairman Mathis.
Yes, thank you for bringing this. I sure appreciate it. To kind of make a comment on Representative Donahue, we did the patient advocate. We tried to pass that during COVID, and we finally got it passed a year later, where even during a pandemic like that someone can be in the room with the loved one. That is vital. It was vital. I could not believe it was heavily contested when we did it the first time, Chairman Petrie, and you know how we went through that.
We took that up in this committee.
Yeah, we took it up, and it was, I could not believe the resistance on that, because that is paramount. You know that. You may get the meal in the room, but if someone doesn't administer it.
Yeah.
That is, yeah.
That's why
and that's what I say, but the year later, we did pass the patient advocate. And I am so glad for that, but I'll agree with you here, but I hope we can go through this and make sure, because I've had folks in the personal care homes and that sort of stuff. So thank you so much.
All right, Representative Mathis, thank you, sir. We got the last question. Representative Campbell.
Thank you so much, Chairman. In addition to the cost impact, I think it would be wonderful to understand the impact that it might have on improved patient outcomes and the cost savings, because we know right now that medical error is increasing exorbitantly. And so as we think about the ratio there what is that cost? But then what is the impact of that on improved outcomes for our patients, so that we will spend less money addressing these issues once they are out of control that we could have avoided potentially if we have this expertise in place. So I look forward to that.
Here, if we had time, but so again, I appreciate
Wonderful. That's
the
wonderful.
hearing
Thank you.
only, so I appreciate the work, and so I'll be glad to talk to anybody offline on the additional information that we get.
Thank you, Representative, and I'm going to amend what I said. I'm going to get in trouble with my Savannah friend. Representative Jackson has the final question.
Very short. I've had 3 people in facilities. A lack of attention when it comes to seeing if those patients, particularly those with issues, if they're eating, if the meals are sufficient, not just a bologna sandwich or something like that. So I am concerned, and I am you know, I'm happy that you brought this to our attention. There needs to be dietitians within those areas, not just to see, but to watch, to see if those patients are doing and getting the care from, I don't care who's doing it, to make sure they're eating the nutritional meals that are provided for them. So yes, that's all I wanted to say.
And
Thank
this bill
you.
really is about certifying more and getting a more equipped workforce.
Thank you, Representative Schofield. We appreciate your time. Thank you. Ms. St. Clair, we thank you.